we will go through a general list of things that usually happen when we make contact, giving you an overview of all the different stages, all the different phases, all the different steps that are often involved in contacting a new civilization. Now, of course, depending upon the civilization, not every step is always necessary, and sometimes there may be additional steps to take into account the belief systems of the society, the way the society functions, so on and so forth. Nevertheless, this will give you a general idea not only of the phases of first contact that we engage in our society, but it will also give you an understanding of exactly where you are on that schedule. So, we will go through the list. Some things will be self-evident. Some things we will provide a little tiny bit of an explanation for, just to clarify the idea. Nania, with your assistance, please read the first thing on the list.
Okay. Number 1, discovery of the civilization.
All right. Now that's relatively self-evident. We become aware that such a civilization exists and is at a stage where the first phases of communication, connection, and contact can occur. In your case, we understand you've arrived at a place, and have for some time, where you've begun to realize that you may not be alone in the universe, and you begin to send out a vibrational invitation that says you are curious about learning more. And then next?
Observation of the civilization.
We watch, we observe, we measure the energy. This is where you begin to see upsurges in what you call UFO activity around the globe, beginning to take stock of exactly what the situation is on the planet. In your case, of course, we discover that you have different nations, different factions, different kinds of belief systems, and we begin to formulate an understanding of how to relate to the vibrations and reality you have set up for yourselves. And next?
Determine the potential for contact.
Again, in taking all these readings and in assimilating and integrating all the information, we come up with an understanding of the probability for which contact may occur within certain time frames. And next?
If contact potential is high, choose a life or connection in the civilization.
So as we have said, the channel in your linear framework is one of our past lives. We almost always choose a life in the civilization that is ultimately going to be contacted, so that we can, through experience, understand the civilization more deeply, and then be capable of drawing upon that with the future self of that being, which in this case is me. So the idea is also that because we do this, it gives us an ability to understand the references, the idioms, the culture, and allows us to be more relatable, and you more relatable to us. Without this process, without this step, things would take a little longer, because we would be literally too alien to each other, because our society in many ways is very different than yours. And even the small amount of what we have described our society to be is a tiny percentage of the way we actually function. Much of what goes on in our world, in our reality, we haven't even delivered to you yet as information. Nevertheless, we have enough understanding of each other to communicate.
Then you want to design the life to provide necessary elements for future contact.
Yes, so the past life will then go through a pathway, a process that will give them what they need for the purpose of the future communication. And in this case, in the channel's life, there were certain incidents that occurred that prepared the channel to have the ability to do this when the time was appropriate to begin.
Generate sightings and observe reactions and responses.
This is always a fun one for us. Because even though there have been observations taking place, and sometimes you may catch a glimpse of the ships that are doing the observation, now the sightings begin in earnest. We allow you to really see the ships. We really watch and observe and understand the reactions that you have within your societal structure about the existence of our ships, and go from there.
Calculate the timing for various phases of contact.
By then gauging the reaction and responses that we get from all of you by having a slightly closer encounter with our civilization through the viewing of our ships, and a few other things and methodologies, we then can begin to see the structure unfold automatically in synchronicity to the general timing as it relates to your society. One of the outcomes of this is the understanding that still remains true at the moment as the highest probability of the window for open contact, which is approximately between your years of 2025 to 2033. That came out of the synchronicity that was the result of the gathering of the information of the reactions and responses to the sightings of our ships.
Guide synchronicity to prepare connection with the individual.
In other words, now that the life is being lived of the past self, we now create an incident moment. For the channel, this was actually the sighting of our ship on 2 occasions. You will see this played out in the film you will be witnessing later, so that you can see exactly how this occurred. But nevertheless, this was the inciting incident that began to propel the channel to consciously begin to investigate, well, as you often say, what the hell is going on? This is not the way we were told the world was. I need to look deeper into this. Which then led him down the path in a more accelerated way to learn what he needed to learn so that when the time came to do the channeling, he would be better prepared.
Initiate connection with connection individual.
So then in the channel, through synchronicity, being guided to go into a channeling class and learn the idea of channeling, not even knowing he was going to become a channel consciously at that point, then the telepathic connection that occurred in that class was the beginning of the real communication, the conscious communication with the channel, to allow him to decide for himself whether or not to continue on that path. And so,
disseminate information over time.
As you are seeing now, that we have done with all of you, bringing through ideas and information into your society to see what you do with it.
Observe reactions and responses to information.
To see what you do with it. And this means to watch whether or not you are capable of remaining within alignment of your own energy and within integrity in your own society in the understanding, application, and utilization of the information. This will tell us a lot about how you will in the future react to more information and whether you're actually ready for it.
Initiate higher level communication with the connection individual.
This means that a blending begins if the individual, that is the past self, is starting to really open up to the idea and understanding of the connection that exists between us in the non-linear sense now, not the linear sense of saying, all right, that's my future self, this is the past self, but in the non-linear sense of understanding higher dimensional perspectives of this connection. For example, the idea that from a higher perspective, we are one and the same soul, one and the same being expressing itself in what you would call 2 different parallel reality time frames simultaneously. Once the channel begins to grasp the idea, once the downloads to the channel begin to filter into his consciousness system, and he starts beginning to view things more 3-dimensionally, 4th-dimensionally, 5th-dimensionally in the way that we do, then there can be a heightened degree of acceleration of the kind of information that can be delivered through that connection individual.
Choose additional individuals to disseminate the information. Thank you, Tadeo. Generate additional sightings to observe any changes in responses.
So again, in phase 2 of the sightings, you will find the idea of such things then as the Phoenix lights and all sorts of things that stand out in a very, very powerful way to see again, what does the society do with this? What do individuals do with this? Many individuals began to become very accelerated after that kind of a sighting, although we also notice that the society at large doesn't seem to want to talk about things like that still. But again, this is a general assessment. Obviously, we understand that there are different reactions and different rates of expression around your globe because of the different nations, the different belief systems, so on and so forth. So some parts of your world are willing to acknowledge these things a little bit more openly, and some parts still remain relatively clandestine about these issues and experiences. So again, we take readings to see where you're all at, both individually and collectively, with the more powerful, more blatant, more obvious sightings that are then presented to you.
Generate contact symbols.
This, obviously, such as what you're seeing here as the Sedona vortex array and many other kinds of symbols that are representative of the vibrational frequency of contact, then begin to also be disseminated into your society along with the general information, so that you can kind of have a shortcut version, a condensed version of the information and the energy in these forms as permission slips to help accelerate and see what you're actually attracted to use. Because this, again, your attraction to these symbols tells us a lot about what specific vibrational frequency each individual happens to be on based on what they're attracted to.
Initiate phase-shifted contacts when and where appropriate.
So in other words, this is the upshot of what we have said to many of you, in that while many of you are waiting for contact to happen, contact in many ways has actually occurred face to face. But they usually happen in a slightly shifted reality that is similar to your physical reality, but actually isn't your actual physical reality that you consider to be your normal reality. But then you forget that these things happen, and that serves the purpose of allowing you to remember that these things have already happened at your own pace, and we use the rate at which you remember as a measurement device to determine when you are ready for more conscious realization of contact.
Observe the rate of recall of phase-shifted contacts.
What we just said.
Reassess and disseminate potential timing for open contact.
And again, the window at the moment remains the same, although there may be certain small bubble windows here and there around the world that can be somewhat accelerated to the general window we have given you, depending upon other things that may happen in your society, for example, such as your own discovery that life might exist somewhere off your planet. Whether that means an intelligent civilization or not is not the issue. Just the very idea that you discover for yourselves that life is possible elsewhere other than Earth can change your mindset to help accelerate the idea of contact with other civilizations.
Observe responses to announcement of timing.
Again, by letting you know such things as the probabilities of contact, we again gauge how you respond and react to that, and it adds more information as to whether that window needs to slide up or down, or other things may need to happen with it, or other presentations may need to occur.
Observe any changes in the status of the civilization.
Again, we watch very closely for the kind of things that are going on in the society, and recognize through the positive and the negative expressions an acceleration that determines and lets us know when things are coming to a head, when thresholds are about to be crossed, when major shifts are about to occur within the collective and individual consciousnesses on your planet. So again, we can better gauge the timing for contact.
Assist in balancing planetary energies.
The reason that my ship is above the Sedona vortex is specifically for this purpose, of adding our frequency into the vortex that is connected to all other vortices on your planet in a very powerful way, along with other ships over other vortices around your globe, and thus help balance out the energy of these vortices, which then emanate these frequencies so that when you come in contact with them, they help amplify whatever it is you bring into the vortex. And that's both positive and negative. But it's the idea of aiding and assisting with the balancing, blending, and acceleration of the energies globally around your planet to stabilize, ultimately, the energy field of your world and make it more conducive to the idea of open contact, because the vibrational state has to raise and meet us halfway before it will really be a compatible vibration for the level of contact that can occur with many other civilizations.
Generate primary tools of contact.
Again, similar to the idea of the symbols, there are certain things that, depending on the society, then have to happen. So in some societies, as for example is being done now, there are tools of contact that help accelerate the process, such as the documentary you're about to see. This is actually a tool of contact and will have an effect depending upon your responses and reactions to it and the responses and reactions of others around the world. Other civilizations on other worlds may require other kinds of societal cultural expressions, either something like a book or a play or some other form of information or creative expression that will allow them to engage with that tool in a way that will best serve that society to help accelerate the probability of contact.
Initiate filtering of non-compatible states.
This is what we talked about the idea of the splitting prism or the train station where the tracks are going off in different directions, and to make sure that you are aligned harmoniously with the train you want to be on, because it will be more and more challenging to jump the train in the future because the tracks are getting farther and farther apart. In other words, all the frequencies are starting to, in a sense, refine themselves into different streams that are representative of very specific realities. And ultimately, even though you may be able to experience many different kinds of things going on in your reality now, or at very least observe many different kinds of things, including things that are not necessarily vibrationally compatible with your preference, in the future, it will be more and more challenging to witness or experience anything that has nothing to do with whatever vibrational track you chose to be on. So this is simply an encouragement to make sure you're on the correct track, on the correct train that is most harmoniously aligned with your true self.
Become the prime mentor of the contact program.
As we have recently said, my father held the position of the head of the First Contact Council, which has now fallen to me. Because in the idea of being the first contact specialist and the representative to your planet at this time that is primary from my civilization, it has now fallen to me to be in charge of the rest of the program.
You're doing a good job.
Why, thank you. So are you.
Introduce the Contact Council to the civilization.
That's coming up, although you've had a brief glimpse, when my father did in fact communicate through the channel to your civilization relatively recently. But this is the phase you're at now. This is where you fall on that schedule of first contact protocols. You are about to, in the near future, be introduced more clearly to the actual entire First Contact Council, because now that you've arrived at this point, you have to know who they are and they have to know who you are.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Accelerate sightings and awareness of life beyond the civilization.
So again, these things are coming up. You're not in this phase yet, but it's approaching sometime within the next few years.
Observe responses.
Yet again.
And then initiate precursor contacts.
We will be talking in more detail about the precursors in an upcoming transmission from your New York area. But the general idea is that there are certain kinds of beings that will elicit certain reactions from you when you are in their presence. And it is those reactions to those beings that we will be watching very closely to really determine how ready you are to actually have extraterrestrial beings walking among you as a matter of course.
So we want to observe the reactions to that, to the
Yeah.
precursors. And then we want to initiate isolated physical contact.
Yes, this will start to become a little bit more toward the vibration of your physical reality, where we can begin here and there in isolated places, at isolated moments, the beginnings of the idea of open contact with certain individuals, certain groups that are ready for it at that time.
And you want to expand contacts over time.
Yes, and this will then be entering that window of 2025 to 2033, so that by the end of that window, there will be a general recognition across the entire globe that open contact with extraterrestrial civilizations has actually officially begun.
Initiate final sightings prior to open contact.
Yes, because open contact in the sense of some individuals here, some groups there, so on and so forth, is not the final open contact, which is with every single form of life on your planet, not just you humans. You are an entire system, and to us, open contact with Earth means open contact with Earth, the entirety of the consciousness in a variety of ways you have yet to imagine, but it's coming.
Hence the need for interspecies communication.
Yes.
Observe responses to the final sightings.
Yes.
And then initiate open contact.
Yes.
And final determination for continuation of open contact.
Because even at that moment, there may be things that people on your planet and whatever civilization we are contacting may make a choice to react negatively to, that we will then filter in and factor into the idea of whether the contact should occur in that way. Now, this may be anything from a slight adjustment to the way contact is occurring to the idea that contact should not continue at all. You will fall somewhere within that spectrum, and at that moment, based on true open contact, that will be determined according to what is truly best for the society and the civilization.
Initiate information exchange.
One of the informational exchanges, as we have recently said, that you would be given in open contact will be the delivery of your entire true history, filling in all the gaps that now exist in your understanding of your so-called past. Such things as true information about Atlantis, true information about your beginnings, true information about other civilizations that have come and gone on your planet, and many other things that you don't actually have recorded in your history right now for a variety of reasons.
Initiate any special procedures.
This will be determined at the time as to what any special procedures might need to be, because that will really be the true beginning of the incorporation and enlistment of your civilization into the interstellar alliance. And we will see what needs to happen for your civilization to allow such a transition to operate as smoothly as possible at that time, whatever your special needs may be at that moment.
Prepare the civilization for interstellar alliance membership.
As we said, this will include many different phases unto itself in going through the idea of becoming a full-fledged member of the Interstellar Alliance, if that's what you wish, which hasn't yet really been fully determined.
And you want to train civilization to discover other civilizations.
Yes, as we have often said, there are other civilizations that are somewhat around the same basic level that you are, and many of them have, in some sense, been left alone because you will become their UFOs. You will be making first contact with them, and we have left them open as your training ground to follow in our footsteps.
Amazing. Guide civilization's initial contacts with other civilizations.
Yes, we will be there to mentor you and guide you along the way so that you will not inadvertently blow up any planets. Just kidding, we think.
Initiate membership in the Interstellar Alliance.
Then you will become full-fledged members after having had some experience with interacting with other civilizations yourself by being the initiators of those first contacts. And that means you have open to you the expanse of the galaxies, of the universe, the sharing of technologies with us and other civilizations, and spanning the stars and truly becoming Homo Galacticus.
Initiate specific programs relevant to the new member.
Yes, you have your strengths, and therefore many different kinds of programs from your membership in the Interstellar Alliance will take advantage of what it is you bring to the Interstellar Alliance that is unique to you. Because it is all of that diversity that we cherish. It is all of the strengthening of the individual society that you are that will add to the unification and harmony of the interstellar alliance by letting you really express the strengths and the uniqueness of your being.
And finally, continue relations with experienced member civilization.
Yes, at that point you will be considered an experienced member civilization, and there are many, many, many things, many opportunities, many different kinds of experiences that then can be opened up to an experienced member civilization that, again, right now may be far beyond what you imagine membership would actually be. But you'll be able to explore at that time many different kinds of things that go beyond any of the so-called science fiction scenarios you've gotten used to about what it means to actually be a member of an alliance. It goes way beyond that and goes way deeper inside your consciousness than you may know. And so then.
And so I did have a question.
Yes?
When you mentioned about the final determination for continuation of open contact, or even earlier, isn't
Yes.
there another time where it's assessed whether or not a civilization will go forward with contact or not?
Yes, but we always, at the later time, offer the opportunity for the civilization to make a final assessment.
And once you shared about the percentages of civilizations that actually go beyond that stage,
Yes.
what was that?
The idea in general is that, let's say, on average, about 75% of the civilizations we have contacted will actually opt to continue for membership, but some don't.
What are some of the reasons that they don't?
They may find that in their own estimate, once they have become unified enough because of the contact, because they're now looking at things very differently, they may find that they've decided that they are going to create a unique and different destiny for themselves. And we will certainly allow them to do so and go off and find out whatever they need to find out on their own without necessarily becoming a member. In other words, it doesn't mean that they won't necessarily interact with us. They just won't necessarily be acting as an official member of the alliance. They would be acting more as an independent stellar nation.
Okay, great.
That would be one reason. There are many others, but that would be one. Does that help?
I think it does.
All
Does
right.
it help
Does that
everybody
clarify
else?
things? All right. Now you know where you are in the program. You can now take a pin and go, you are here. And here is the upcoming calendar of things that are coming up in the future. So it gives you some sense now, and this is actually an important exercise. It gives you some sense of how far you've come, because you're not that far from the end of the list in general. And therefore you can see that you're progressing in the context of this idea, and you can see that there really isn't that much yet remaining for you to really accelerate forward into the idea of expanding in the way that we have just described. So we thank you for being willing to move forward in this way up to this point with us and other civilizations, because again, you are family. And the idea of reawakening family members so they can rejoin the family and welcoming them home is of great joy to us. So thank you.
Energy has frequency to it. A simple example is what you call your visible spectrum of light, yes? You know it's all the same kind of electromagnetic energy, but you know that red is a different frequency, a different vibrational rate than blue, which is a higher vibrational rate. Yes?
Yes.
So when you allow yourself to align with your truth, your passion, your creativity, your love, you are allowing yourself to upgrade and accelerate, raise up your frequency. And by raising up your frequency, it makes you more sensitive as a receiver, in a sense, as an antenna, to pick up on even higher frequencies above and beyond your reality. Your senses expand. You start being able to perceive the structure of existence. You start being able to understand that you have a direct connection to source. You start being able to actually experience it in that way. You start being able to realize that you are already being given everything you can possibly be given. You don't necessarily have to ask for more. It's that you just have to pay more attention to what you're already getting. And raising your frequency makes you a more sensitive receiver to be able to pay more attention to what you're already being given that helps you. You're just making yourself basically more sensitive to receive higher energy information by matching that level, by matching that frequency. Remember, the principle is you cannot perceive what you are not the vibration of. So when you are vibrating at a certain rate, at a certain frequency, you can't perceive the things that are vibrating like this. You have to raise your frequency and become matched to that frequency like two tuning forks to be able to receive and understand and translate and process that vibration and all the information and all the experience that is relative to that vibration. If you're down at this level on this vibration scale, you can't really have any experiences that are representative of a different vibrational level.
I guess the second part of my question would be to
Yes.
raise my vibration.
That's the formula that we've given you all. Yes? You act on your highest passion because passion is the translation in your body of your true frequency.
Okay.
You do it to the best you are able, and you do it with absolutely no insistence and no assumption, thinking that you know what the outcome is supposed to be of acting on that passion because your physical mind really has no idea. And if you insist on knowing what that outcome should be and put those kinds of restrictions on it, your higher mind and creation cannot necessarily then give you what could actually be much better than you have imagined. So you have to really trust the synchronicity and the higher self to deliver to you, when you're in the correct vibration of passion, all the things you truly need at that moment. Your physical mind is only designed to understand and experience what's happening, what's going on right now at this moment, and take that experience in. Your physical mind is not designed to really know what's going to happen, but higher intelligence does. And therefore it guides you and says, follow your passion. That's the compass needle pointing to your true north. That's the compass needle that allows you to align with your true self and your true path in life. Follow the passion, follow the love, follow the excitement, follow the curiosity, follow the creativity. That's what you are. That's who you are. And then you know your path will be unerring. It will be the path of least resistance, the path of joy. You will experience less struggle and strife. It's just the way it works. You're going with the flow of your current. You're not swimming upstream. You're not resisting it. Does that make sense?
Yes, yes, yes.
So that's the formula. Act on your highest passion to the best you can at every moment. Do it as much as you can, as far as you can take it, until you can take it no further. Then act on the next most exciting thing. And then do that with absolutely no insistence, no assumption as to what the outcome ought to be, and see what happens. And then whatever happens, remain in a positive state. Even if something manifests that you don't initially prefer, you have to know it's there for a reason. There are no accidents. It's there for a reason. Learn to stay in a positive state, and then you can use what you don't prefer in a way that you do prefer and get the benefit from it. But you have to know that whatever you are given is what you need at that moment. Because sometimes you will test yourself. Maybe something will manifest that you don't prefer, and maybe you will find yourself reacting in the same old way with the same old fear-based beliefs and say, oh, why did that happen? Something must be wrong. Something's off. I will judge myself. I must have done something wrong. That is what exactly makes that state stick and stay there and get you in a loop of negativity. But if you suddenly realize, all right, I recognize objectively that I don't prefer this, but I know it's got to be there for a reason that serves me. I just know that. Then you will be able to extract the benefit. You will see eventually why it happened in that way, if for nothing else again, that you tested yourself to make sure that you're not making your happiness conditional on what happens outside. You are making your happiness conditional only on what you decide is true for you.
Now, this is the idea of what the job of your physical personality mind actually is and what it isn't. Many of you have been taught to believe that your physical mind is in charge, that it's supposed to control everything and figure out how everything is supposed to happen in order for everything to work. But you heard in the recording, and you heard us say last night of your time, that this is not your job description. Your physical mind is not designed to understand how things happen. It is only designed to perceive how things happened. It is not designed to perceive how things will happen. It is only designed to perceive how things happened. The higher self, that level just above physical reality that is also part of your personal being, is the level of your being that has the ability to understand how things happen. And that's why you heard us say and the secret say, you don't have to worry, you don't have to focus on how something will come about. There is no way for you to know. It's not within the capacity of your physical mind to know that. It's only within the capacity of your physical mind to see how it did occur, but not how it will occur. The knowledge of how it will occur comes from your higher self, not from your physical mind. As we said last night of your time, again, pay attention, very crucial. The higher self conceives. The physical brain receives. The physical personality mind perceives. The physical personality mind does not conceive of anything. The physical mind is not capable of generating an idea, not one. Not one. Any idea you have ever had has never come from your physical mind. Not one. It can only perceive the result of the idea that was received by the brain from the conception of the higher self. Beginning to understand this relationship will allow you to begin to have a better relationship and an open line of communication with the higher self, and will allow you as physical minds to allow the you that is the higher self to do its job, while the physical mind goes about doing the job it was designed to do, which is to simply focus you in physical reality so that you can perceive and experience the result of what you conceived from the higher self to be representative of your natural truth and joy. So, this knowledge and this understanding and this relationship can allow you to relax and not feel like you have to do so much. It's not your responsibility in that sense as a physical mind to generate these things and figure out how it's all going to happen. As we said last night of your time, we recognize that the physical mind, if it is taught to think it's in charge, can get caught up in the idea of attempting to repeat how something did occur, thinking that what it is perceiving is actually how the next thing needs to occur, when in fact it's not. The idea of attempting to do that will only cause a repetitive cycle, a repetitive loop, that will simply allow you to remain stuck in one particular manifestational level, and it won't advance until you allow yourself to make the leap and let go of how you think it needs to happen, and let the higher self show you how it can happen. And then let your physical mind simply perceive how it did happen. So you don't need to carry those bags. You don't need to carry that luggage. It's too heavy. You weren't designed to carry it. If you keep carrying it, you will be exhausted very quickly. You will start dragging. You will say, life is a drag. This doesn't work. I'm not having any fun. Why not? Because you're doing too many jobs. You're not doing the job you were designed to do, only you're also attempting to do the job of the higher self. The higher self is the you that is on the mountaintop, that has the big picture, that has the far view, that can look down at the physical mind in the valley and say, the road is this way. I'm telling you, turn left. I know you think you're supposed to turn right because you think you're in charge, but I'm telling you, turn left. Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. You don't have to know how turning left is going to get you to where you want to go. I can see that it is because I'm on the mountaintop. You don't need to know. All you need to do is what? Trust me that I'm telling you the truth. Why would I do anything different? I'm you. When you understand that your higher self is truly an aspect of you, maybe you will be willing to start listening instead of thinking, because your physical mind has been taught to think it's in charge and thus doesn't trust anyone else's 2 cents. Instead of thinking that your higher self is trying to deceive you, trying to trick you. Can't listen to that guy, that gal. What does he know? What does she know about being down here in the valley? A lot. Because you are also it, and it is also you. What we are simply saying is this is the complete person. Higher self, receiver brain, physical mind, this is the complete persona. And when you compartmentalize yourself, you are not functioning literally, not functioning as a complete person. You are shunting responsibility and the load of the job to only one portion of your personality, only one portion of your persona, the physical mind, and expecting it to take up the slack, which it is not designed to do. You're putting too much weight on it, too much emphasis on it, and it's going to wear the physical you down to the point where it won't matter what the higher self says about taking this road or that road. You'll just be too exhausted to move. Just can't do it. Sorry. The idea is that when you allow yourself to let the higher self pick up that slack by doing the job it was designed to do, your load will be lightened. You will be energized. You will be enlightened. You will feel freer. You will feel like you have more energy than you ever imagined possible. You will be able to move in the direction the higher self is suggesting, because you will then not be weighed down by things that you don't have any business carrying with you. And it will make you feel free, and you can run down the road, and that means as soon as you give up the job that isn't yours, things will accelerate. If you think you need to lug all this luggage down the road, it's going to be slow going. When you drop what isn't yours, things will speed up because now you're not carrying extra weight. Things will accelerate. The paradox here is that because the physical mind has been taught to think it's in charge and has to figure out how everything is going to happen, it actually slows things down, even in the face of wanting things to speed up. It's doing exactly the opposite of what it actually really wants to have happen by taking on too much weight. So by letting that go and allowing yourself to function as the whole being, and trusting the how to the higher self and not thinking about it, not worrying about it in the physical mind as to how you're going to get where you know you want to be, then you will allow there to be balance on all levels of your being. Things will flow in that positive direction representative of your natural self, because you will be behaving as your true, interconnected, holistic, natural self. This, when people talk about the idea of letting go, when they talk about the idea of surrender, this is what they're talking about. Simply surrender to being who you actually are instead of who you've been taught to think you're supposed to be. This is what you are now realizing in this new age of transformation on your planet. That you're not alone. That the compartmentalized you that you heretofore thought was the totality of your being is in fact nothing but a small piece, and that you actually have other portions of yourself that you could be using, that you could be allowing to carry some of the load with you, but which you have refused to believe can happen because of the way your personality mind, your physical mind has been taught to think about what it's supposed to do, about what its responsibilities actually are. And thus then, once the physical mind has taken on this much weight, has taken on this much more job than it was designed to do, and it feels tired, and it feels stressed, and it feels weighed down, what's the next step after that? victimization, resentment. It starts dissolving and devolving and breaking down because it cannot carry the load. And once it starts breaking down, thinking this is supposed to be working and it's not, it now feels betrayal from the universe. The universe isn't supporting me, it's not working for me. No, you're not working for you. You're not working for you because you're working too hard for you. Lighten up on yourself. The universe does not expect you to have to struggle. It does not expect you to have to, in any way, shape, or form, suffer. Challenges, yes, but those are exciting. Activity, yes, but that's exciting. Struggle, suffer, no. There is no expectation on behalf of the universe that you should have to struggle and suffer to be yourself. All the struggling, all the suffering, all the doubt, all the fear comes from the misunderstanding of who you are, and thus resisting your natural self because you're afraid to give up that control from the physical mind to the greater self for which it was designed. And when you thus then don't do that and take it all on yourself and start slogging down the road, very heavy under the burden of things you have no business carrying, comes the victimization, the sense of fear, the sense of betrayal, the sense of being alone, the sense of being cut off, the sense of being disconnected, the resentment, the hate, self-loathing, lack of deservability. All these issues stem from not allowing your full self to carry the load. All of it. Bless you. There are, as we said, now many more different, shall we say, permission slips being created by many different people with regard to ideas such as abundance and living your passion and so on and so forth. They are all saying the same thing. Choose whichever one seems to work best for you. But when you make a choice as to what permission slip is most reflective and most representative of what you believe works best for you, then take that information and inundate and immerse yourself in it to the point where you are truly exhibiting a passion for being passionate. And thus then you will find that you will infuse yourself when you give up the weight that doesn't belong to you, and you infuse yourself with a passion for being passionate, the levels of synchronicity will explode in your life to such a degree that you will find staggering, miraculous, enlightening, uplifting, levitating. You will be flying in many different ways. Accelerating, opening up, feeling the love that has always been there unconditionally for you. We would like to begin this workshop regarding changing core belief systems in the following way. You have on your planet a joke. Some of you may have heard it, but it goes something like this. How many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? And as some of you know, the answer is 1, but the light bulb has to want to change. This is very important for today's information. When dealing with core belief, the first step is you have to want to change. All the techniques, all the tools that we may share with you or have shared with you about changing beliefs will basically be lying idle on your shelf without the first and most important ingredient, the desire to change the core belief. Many of you have talked, and we have talked about the idea that you are going, euphemistically speaking, symbolically speaking in a way, from 3D to 4D, third density to fourth density. So let's take advantage of the nomenclature of 4D and present to you the basic curriculum we will be covering today, which involves 4 Ds: desire, definition, dedication, and detachment. These are the 4 overall general elements necessary for changing core belief: desire, definition, dedication, detachment. And we will explain each of these in depth as we go. First and foremost, understand that there is a difference between the vibrational energy of what is typically called desire and the word you often use, want. Not quite the same thing. It can be used in the same way, but we wish to make sure it is clear that in this context, when we are talking about desire, it is something far more akin to passion and a true deep soul desire than simply the idea that you as a person may want something. The desire, the level of desire we are talking about comes from the inner soul, the inner being. That which you are so passionate about bringing into your life as a state of being, knowing yourself deeply, who you are as a consciousness, the state itself that you wish to experience your life within, the desire to be nothing else but yourself in the purest way you can be, and reaching for that in all ways that you can, in thought, in word, in deed. Desire will be, in this case, the true driving force that will allow you the energy and the power to delve deep into your belief systems, find the core beliefs, allow yourself then to, in examining them and identifying them, change them. The desire, first and foremost, must be paramount in the utilization of these techniques, paramount in your focus for examining core beliefs. The desire to change. The desire to change. Overwhelmingly, overpoweringly, passionately. The desire to change. To be who you really are. To discover that and be who you really are. Without applying the first 4 Ds of desire and definition and dedication and detachment, without those, without all 4 of them, you may give rise to a 5th D, difficulty, in changing your core beliefs. The first 4 Ds are so important in working together as a holistic system. They must all truly be present for the manifestation, for the change to occur, to be experienced in your life, in a tangible way, in a heartfelt way.
So, let us, for the moment, examine one of the pages you have in your hands, not the first necessarily, not the second, but look at the lists of words, the two lists of words. Now, the first group of words are conditions that are required for you to survive in physical reality as a physical being. If you stop simply and take a look and think about it, you will realize how important those are. Obviously, in order to continue your existence in the physical experience, you must be born into it. You do need to continue breathing. I believe you all understand that. You all really, generally need to drink. You all generally need to eat, and all the other things, just to maintain your existence in physical reality. The second level, the second group of words, are words that are representative of, in a sense, functioning, so to speak, getting along in physical reality. Now, not all of them are absolutely necessary, for certainly you can get along in physical reality without your eyes, or without hearing, or a few other things, although some of them are essential in order to truly function in physical reality. If you will observe, there is actually only one word that is common to both lists, and that word is dream. You absolutely must dream due to the nature of how you have created your physical reality, and in creating the sense and experience of detachment, so to speak, or disconnection, so to speak, or limitation, so to speak, from the spirit world, in creating that experience of detachment from the spirit world, you must from time to time reconnect to it. And generally speaking, although of course we understand there are many different kinds of dreams, and many different reasons for dreaming, and many different meanings that you can give to dreams, many different representations that come from dreams, we're actually talking about the physical mechanism of dreaming that allows you as a being to expand and go into the connection of being a little bit more yourself in the spiritual level while you are still physical. This reconnection on a regular basis is critical for your actual physical survival and for your ability to function in physical reality. Many individuals on your planet, as some of you may know, have done what you call studies about dreaming and sleeping. And they have found quite correctly and realized quite correctly that you might be allowed to dream but not sleep so much. And if you don't sleep so much, you will be perhaps tired. And perhaps some of your functionality may be a little bit impaired. But as long as you are allowed to have moments of dreaming, you will still be able to continue to function more or less normally in physical reality. However, they have also found that no matter how much sleep they allow an individual to have, if they prevent the individual from dreaming, very rapidly the individual will dissolve into psychosis. And they can actually die from that. Understand the dreaming is far more critical than the sleeping itself. So, in order to actually maintain your physical existence, you must dream. In order to function in physical reality, you must dream. The reason we bring this up And the reason we point this out in these lists is that that is really what we're talking about also when we talk about desire. It's connected very strongly to dream. Understand that your dreams, your ability to dream, in that sense, is connected to your ability to desire, to manifest, to realize and experience in physical reality. And dreaming and desiring from the soul level, in many ways, are essentially the same thing. Because when you dream, you are creating, as we said, a reconnection, a manifestation of an experience of more of yourself, which is really what desire is all about, fundamentally. It drives you to experience more of your true holistic self. Now then, definition. We've talked many times about defining your beliefs, and definition remains. Defining your beliefs remains a critical component of accessing and dealing with core beliefs. And what we are also talking about when we talk about definition is clarity of definition. Clarity of definition. Really getting down deep into exactly how your beliefs are constructed, how your definitions are put together, what components make them up, what ideas and thoughts go into it or result from it. All the factors that stem from and help to reinforce the definitions you have bought into, that you have been brought up with, that you have been spoon-fed since birth. Remember that in accepting and in choosing the idea of the physical reality experience, generally speaking, although some things are somewhat malleable, you have agreed to accept and adopt a series of ideas and concepts that, in a sense, govern physical reality, such things as gravity on your planet, electromagnetic fields, neurological impulses, so on and so forth. I am not saying these things cannot be changed by your vibration, but generally most of you agree to play along and let those things run automatically so that you can focus on other issues, instead of having to constantly, consciously think about keeping your feet on the ground. You allow yourself to simply have an automatic portion of your beingness that says, I agree that as long as I'm on physical reality Earth, gravity exists, and I won't simply go floating off into space. Although that can happen sometimes for various reasons. And we may get into that later. But the idea is that when you choose physical reality and you agree, generally, to adopt a series of conditions, one of those things has to do with the patterns that are already existing that result from the experiences of the parents you chose to be born to. So that in coming through them, to be physical, to be born physically, you will to some degree adopt some of those patterns from them. A kind of hand-me-down from them. A kind of family agreement that says, I will agree to explore with you similar themes, similar ideas that you may call patterns or experiences. Not that you will necessarily have to play them out in the same way your parents did, but you often agree to explore similar themes they went through so that you, in exploring them and coming up with a different perspective and perhaps even a different outcome, can add to the overall soul family group's experience of all the different ways that theme can be played out in your family group. And so, you often take on yourself in being born definitions and belief systems and ideas that will result in certain kinds of patterns or schedules or things that will come up or issues that will appear in your life at certain times, often, very often, at the same times that your parents experience them in terms of the same age in your life, and you will deal with them in your own way. Those moments are opportunities for you to get in touch with what that issue, what that idea, and what that belief means to you, what meaning you choose to put in it, how you want to relate to it, and what you want to bring in terms of your learning experience in dealing with it to the soul family experience overall. So it is very important in doing that you have absolute clarity of definition of what those beliefs are that you have been handed from your parents, from society in general, or sometimes even what you may have chosen to bring through with you, just simply as something you have chosen to explore. Whether you connect it to the idea of past lives, future lives, all those things exist simultaneously. So it's really more of a cross connection to some other life going on right now, concurrently. But nevertheless, no matter how you make a relationship or how you need to explain it or set it up to yourself in order for you to have the experience and explore it, getting clarity of the definitions, getting clarity of the belief systems is critical, especially when you are dealing with core beliefs, because as the name core belief implies, you have set these belief systems up in layers, like an onion. Often it will be easier for you to peel them away, get down to the core, to understand the underlying foundation that supports and maintains and perpetuates all the other beliefs on the upper layers. But in giving yourself layers, and in dealing with the outer layers or the top layers, however you wish to look at it, doesn't matter, first, dealing with them first and peeling your way through them, it gives you practice. It gives you experience in dealing with beliefs. And getting down to the core ones will allow you the greatest changes in your life and will give you the techniques, the tools, the capacity to deal with any other beliefs that may come up from other timings that may occur in your life from that point forward. So dealing with the core issues, the core belief that supports all the other ones, even though you may have peeled your way down to the core and gotten to the core and made changes on a core level, this does not mean you have not set yourself up to explore other things, that you may not bring other belief patterns in at another time. And those patterns will connect to the core belief as well, and in dealing and learning how to deal with the core belief, you will be better able to handle those other levels of beliefs when they come up in a different arena, in a different area of your life. But all those upper layers will connect to the same basic core. And that's why it's so important to get a handle on what that core is, so you can handle all the different layers as they arise at different times in your life. So definition, clarity of definition, the second component, we will explore that as well this day of your time. Desire, definition, and dedication. Dedication, very crucial in this idea of allowing your exploration of core belief to stick, to work to manifest, to create in your life an experience of change. Dedication. What do we mean by that? In a sense, it's like saying commitment to the self, to really make it the most important thing, the most paramount thing in your life, to explore these core beliefs and to change them. Dedication also connects into another thing we have talked about many times, which has to do with behavior, the actions that you are willing to take on behalf of what you say you desire to do, on behalf of the changes you say you desire to make. Dedicating yourself in your behavior to acting on those things that are representative of getting in touch with those core beliefs and making the changes to become more of yourself. The behaviors that are representative of the person you say you ultimately would prefer to be. Dedicating yourself to choosing through your actions only those things vibrationally representative, only those things behaviorally representative of the person you say you wish to be, of the person and the life you say you prefer that person to have, so that in thought, word, and deed, you constantly reinforce with your dedication to choosing only those things that you really do have the desire, most important of all, to be that person you say you prefer to be. Without that dedication, there is no reinforcement and no laying out of a conduit for the desire to manifest. Dedication, very important component, choosing only those things that are truly representative of the person you believe you are becoming or wish to become. The fourth D, detachment. This may sound completely and paradoxically contrary to the idea of desire, and in some senses it is, but it is not. Not at all. It is quite complementary. By detachment, again, we simply mean the neutrality that is so important that diffuses the idea of built-in meaning, the recognition and awareness that there is no built-in meaning, and the willingness to put the meaning you prefer into every situation that comes along, every situation that happens. But even more so than that, the detachment, not in a judgmental way, not in a negative way, but the detachment from all things that are not representative of your desire and your dedication and your ability to clearly define what you are and what you are not. Detachment also from the idea of beliefs that do not serve you. For when you have the strong desire and when you have the clear definition and when you have the powerful dedication, you will detach from the things that don't serve you. You will recognize what they are more clearly. You will discern what they are more clearly. And you will simply realize they are not you. That certain things are not vibrationally you. And you will detach from them. Again, not in a judgmental way, but in a compassionate way, through the simple observation and awareness that a thing simply isn't you. It's not your truth. It's not who you prefer to be. It's not representative of the behavior or the actions or the circumstance of the person you say you desire to be, of the being you know you are. So detachment from the things you are not is what paradoxically will then reinforce and amplify and magnify, bringing it full circle, the desire to be who you are. This is an amplification process. You start with desire, and you go through the definition, and you go through the dedication, you use it to arrive at the kind of detachment that will clear out the things that don't belong and allow the desire, like a fire, to burn that much more brightly in you and illuminate more clearly for you the things in your definitions that don't work for you, and drive you more strongly to dedicate yourself to being who you really prefer to be, thus then arriving once again at the state of detaching in a compassionate way from those things that don't serve you, so that can make more room for your desire to burn even brighter. And you amp yourself up and amp yourself up and amp yourself up in this way through this 4-step process. And that is why, if any one of those key components is missing or left out or not as fully utilized as it could be, you will then create the difficulty because you will be breaking the circuit. This is a complete circular, self-realizing, self-magnifying, self-amplifying idea. And all of those things are equally important in the holistic approach of getting the experience in your life of this technique and these ideas really working for you. Really working for you. So, again, desire, definition, dedication, and detachment will allow you to truly disassemble the beliefs that don't work for you, disassemble the personality that you may have been taught to be, and will allow you to assemble a new you in a very experiential way, a very experiential, manifesting, physical way. We bring this tool to you now at this time because now is the proper time for this tool in you. Use it or lose it. It's up to you. It's up to you. Now, we will go into these a little bit more deeply, but let us give an overview, as we have already begun to do, of the next diagram, which would be, in your understanding, the middle diagram, what has been referred to as the enneagrammatic circuit, the 9 circles in a square. This is not so much itself a primary tool as it is an assisting tool in this overall process and experience. It will help in the way that what you might call an affirmation will help to focus you. It's a focusing mechanism. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be, and is not designed to be, completely a conscious mechanism. It will operate on a multitude of levels within your conscious and subconscious and higher conscious selves. The saying at the bottom is generally a loose translation of what the symbols mean in the circles, read as a sentence, read as an idea in context. These symbols are derived from what you know to be ancient Phoenician symbols. The reason this was chosen is because those symbols are not only a precursor to certain other very strongly vibratory languages on your planet, such as Hebrew, and they dig deep into the vibration of your being, whether you are Hebraic or not. Doesn't matter. There's another level to this altogether, tonally, vibrationally, that these symbols represent. And it also detaches, to some degree, your consciousness from the idea that it represents any particular culture, since the idea of the Phoenician culture no longer really exists on your planet intact. So it takes you to an ancient space that in some senses goes around or leaps over or goes through a lot of your expectations about what language is all about on your planet today. It goes to the undercurrent, the foundation. In a sense, it can be called a core language, and so it's appropriate for what we are doing. That language and the symbols are also connected to extraterrestrial sources as well. Not just the idea of physical ET beings, such as myself, but other dimensional levels of guides and spirits and so on and so forth. And many of these symbols were, in a sense, received and given from those sources to your people in ancient times, because they represent certain ideas, certain vibrations that key into the matrix of the meanings that you typically give to things on your planet. So they work well, hand in hand, with the patterns and meanings you have automatically set up within yourself, and are good for loosening those meanings up by setting up a sympathetic or empathetic vibrational tonality that unlocks you from certain patterns and expectations as you look at the symbols from the center. The dot in the center, go to the upper right-hand corner first. That is the eye. Going down, then you will understand it progresses through the idea of mouth and hand, and cutting across the bottom. The middle symbol in that sense is water, which is transition and change. And then going to what you would call the bottom of the left-hand column of circles, then going into the idea and the symbol that represents path or fence, in a sense, that you would follow. And going up to the window, and then upward to the door, and then going to the right, the center symbol above the dot, the circle with the cross in it, which represents the unknown. And so then in reading the sentence that is vibrationally representative of how these symbols work together, you will understand that it is when you start from the inner being of yourself and in physical reality express yourself through sight and through sound and through touch, in the way that is cohesive in what we are talking about today, in those manners of desire and dedication and definition and detachment, then in thought, word, and deed in that way will you cause the transition, will you cause yourself to dissolve into the water, dissolve the crystalline patterns and reform them by following the path to the windows and doors that lead to the unknown, which opens up your reality and brings you back to the center of your being in a very powerful way. So focusing on this as a kind of meditative mudra will allow you to help yourself focus on the principles that we have talked about, the 4 Ds. It will give you some focus. It will put you in the proper state of mind, shall we say. Now, the final diagram, which is a collection of 19 circles with what you might call a type of jagged spiral that connects them. We will get into this more deeply as this communication continues, but in an overview, a general overview, This is a symbol that comes directly from our civilization's history. It is something we created in our civilization as a representation and an understanding of how to spiral downward through different dimensions into the core of your being, and then spiral outward from that core upward through different dimensions into manifestation. In some senses, this could be called a neurological spiral. We did not want nor instruct there to be the name put on the page, because there should be nothing else in your vision when focusing on this image other than the image itself. And it represents the idea of going down through the layers of your beliefs to the core, and coming up from the core through new beliefs and outward into manifestation, following that spiral. And as you can see, dimensionally speaking, the spiral itself, when you look at it in a certain way, actually takes on three-dimensional characteristics. It sort of looks like an unfinished cube or box. Certain lines seem to come toward you. Certain lines seem to go away from you. So it fulfills the idea in a two-dimensional plane of an actual multi-dimensional path that you actually are taking when you focus on this image, and it actually lets you pass through different dimensional and neurological levels of your belief system to the core, and brings those ideas from the core back out into a 3- and 4-dimensional manifestation. It's a very, very powerful gazing tool that will, in a sense, change literally your dimensional perspective of who, what, where, and when, and why, and how you are, and how you manifest yourself. So, set these aside for the moment. We will get back to these tools in a while. But at this time, let us focus a little bit on our journey toward accessing core beliefs. Let us focus on a primary question. That question is why? Why am I here? One of the primary questions humans ask. Why am I here? Now, aside from how we have addressed this idea on a simplistic level in the past, which is to simply say, well, why not? There are very specific reasons why you chose to be where you are. And it is getting in touch with those reasons from a spirit level in choosing this life that you begin your journey to the core. Coming down from heaven, so to speak, to earth. That passage, the why of that passage, is also essential in your understanding of what it is you will be accessing in your core, because it has to do with the themes that you took upon yourself in choosing to be physical and have a physical experience. And it has to do with understanding, as we said, the patterns you have taken on from your parents and your society, and how you play those out. The why. Now, when you choose themes or a kind of physical life or experience from spirit, from that perspective, from that level, before each life, again, we understand we're speaking linearly for clarity's sake. It's all happening at the same time. It's all one. We know all the lives are simultaneous, but just so you understand this process, because that's what physical reality is all about, process, that to some degree is what takes us back to the why. Why has to do with process. The asking of the questions in life, the most important questions. Why this? Why that? Why is this that way? Why is that way? The why question is the very core of the existence of physical reality, because it has to do with the fact that only in really physical reality do you experience creation in the form called process. There is time and space definitions that give you the ability to actually experience creation in process. Otherwise, from higher levels, there's no time, there's no space. A thing just is. And there is no appreciation or depth of exploration of why that thing is. So physical reality exists, in a sense, so you can develop an experience of the deep appreciation of the why component of all that is. That's what physical reality is for. And so when you choose a physical experience, what you're actually saying is you want to dive into the why of it. Not the YMCA of it, the why of it. You want to experience that aspect of all that is, the actual creative manifestation component of the one, of the all. And you need a space-time referential point of view in order to have that experience. And in that process from spirit, each time with each life, as you choose the components that will make up your experience of the why, you are very, very specific about what ingredients you put in to the experience of that life and how it relates not only to the soul family's overall experience as well as your own, but also how it relates to every other experience you are having, both in and out of physical reality. You really look at it as a network and know that every nodal point, every life, whether physical or non-physical, in that web, on that net, reinforces every other nodal point. And so the selections of what this life, this nodal point experience of the why is all about is very specifically chosen. Now, that does not always mean that you choose every specific thing that happens specifically in the life before you come into the life. Some things are left up to the idea of randomness because that's part of the why as well. But the themes are generally specific, and sometimes certain ideas that are experienced, certain situations and circumstances are set up for yourself, by yourself, including the idea of choosing your parents, and so on and so forth, choosing your brothers and sisters, maybe even choosing some of the friends you will have, because you understand that their reflections in your life is what will drive you in the direction of your particular experience of why that you wanted to have in this life. That particular experience of self-discovery, which is the ultimate why question. Who am I? Why am I here? That self-awareness, that self-knowledge on an individual and a grander scale coming together from the beginning to the ending of your life, in a sense, is what it is about. The why of it. That process, that creative arc, as you film people say, is what it's all about. The comparison, in a sense, to use the word loosely, between where you begin and where you end up in any given life, that arc of experience, that process, and the changes and differences that you experience in it are adding to your understanding on a bigger level of what you are as an aspect of all that is.